What's up, lads and lasses? My name is Harold Johnson, and I'm gonna be reading a story I made with my friend Simon for you. It's a story based in Hogwarts with Mrs. McGonagall and Hagrid and the usual trio of Harry Potter and the other hoes. Anyway, I hope you do enjoy. This is my first story. I usually tell these stories to my Dank children. One day, Mrs. McGonagall had overdosed on crack and had a fit of orgasmic bromerides over Hagrid's hut. The next day, she called Voldemort to fix her up, and so he did. The very same morning, Dumbledore came into his little took shop and discovered that all the crack had gone missing. He panicked and he mourned the loss of his precious Dank. He got so engulfed with rage that he killed Ron Weasley. When Hermione had found that Ron Weasley had been killed, she knew exactly what to do. She took her half-blazed blunt from her bedroom and put it right next to Ron's nose. As expected, the little drug addict sprung right to life and blazed the whole blunt in one hit. Meanwhile, Potter was in Snape's office blazing the dankest kush in all of Hogwarts. They had gotten so blazed that when Hermione and Ron stumbled in, Harry thought they were dragons. So in one swift movement of his stick, he disarmed Hermione's wand. After receiving the wand in hand, he felt that the wand had been used to masturbate as it was soaking in Hermione's pussy juice. Snape had then immediately confiscated the wand for research purposes, obviously. The day was still young, so the crackhead trio headed to Hagrid's hut, where they grew their kush and their crack. They stumbled into Hagrid's hut, only to see him, mic in hand, dropping the most fire freestyle rhymes. They did not waste their time, so they got their usual fix from Hagrid. Crack in hand, they had gone to the big willow tree, where they usually got high. When there, Hermione started to brew her usual crack potions. It was their favorite as it got them higher than Uranus. They slurped the potion as if it was Mrs. McGonagall's wrinkly old cunt. Before even finishing the bottle of crack, they were already tripping balls. Potter got the greatest idea to go to Voldemort's crib and draw him a nose. This usually got him really pissed, which gave the good trio a good laugh. When class time hit, it was Snape's class of defense against black magic. They usually snorted cocaine under their desks. Snape had not yet calmed down from the blunt he had earlier with Potter, so the lesson went pretty fast as Snape showed the whole class how to roll a blunt with their wands. Poor old Neville had rolled a blunt just as instructed, and the blunt came out great as expected. Neville had blazed the whole blunt and was trying to concentrate on staying alive. At this moment, Mrs. McGonagall had burst into the classroom. She looked around the room looking for Potter, Ron, and Hermione. She ran up to them and snorted the whole line of cocaine that Ron had set up on his desk. It was the biggest line of cocaine they had ever done, but for old McGonagall it was child's play. Potter had then proceeded to snort a fuck ton of crack to keep up with Mrs. McGonagall. In a few minutes, McGonagall and Potter were done. Ron had stuck his hand into McGonagall's wrinkly cunt, which had gotten her pretty hyped up. Suddenly, she screamed, "Ron Weasley, mind that fucking throbbing dick of yours!" Ron attempted to persuade that it wasn't his fault that he had accidentally stabbed her with his penile rod, and that someone must have stuck Viagra in his fucking crack. But Miss McGonagall wouldn't hear it. "Ron, you fuckwit nigger shit for brains, that's the last time I share my reefer with you." She then squirted exactly 0.3 liters of pussy juice all over Ren's freckled fucking forehead and then expelled him. Potter and Hermione would have helped, but they were tripping fucking balls. Ron half walked, half dragged himself to refuge as he had lost his legs in a vicious fight against a blind platypus. The only place he could imagine that he would be accepted to was Hagrid's hut, but every student knew that there was a painful and repulsive price to pay for the bearded man's shelter. However, Ron Weasley was a grade A fuckboy, and as soon as he arrived, he jerked Hagrid off and jizzed in his beard. Hagrid then got on top and proceeded to penetrate the poor Ginger's asshole with his 15-inch all-natural gorilla penis. Meanwhile, at Hogwarts, Potter had just recovered from a very, very bad fucking trip, and he had realized that they had eaten all the kush in the magic realm, and that their muggle dealer, Leroy Jenkins, was all out. Hogwarts had a general assembly led by Dumbledore and Miss McGonagall. "I say we dissect the bloody bastard and retrieve the 6 kilograms of kush he ate," suggested Dobby. "Shut the fuck up, you disgusting excuse of an organism," shouted Miss McGonagall. "Shot the little fuck right between the eyes." "Any other ideas, dears?" she then asked. A deep voice was heard from the crowd. "Are you joking?" It was a large, bald man whose eyebrows looked like dead caterpillars and had herpes cold sore on his lips. Miss McGonagall tried shooting him, but the bullet ricocheted off his fucking shiny ass head. She then threw a softball at him, and he died dead. "I know," said Hermione. "Let's shove a glass tube down his throat, light his asshole hairs on fire, and use them as a bung so the dank kush doesn't get to waste." 9,999 points to Gryffindor, said Dumbledore as he groped Hermione's left ass cheek. And so, all of Hogwarts got high as fuck again, especially Potter, who was the bong himself. Ron was watching from the roof of Hagrid's shack, enviously wanking at the thought of sucking on something protruding from Harry Potter. Hagrid was just as casually preparing some poison to kill Neville with, so that he could have a threesome with Ron and Neville's dead body while intoxicated on Hagridine. Hagridine is a meth that Hagrid the bearded bastard himself had brewed, consisting of crack, meth, heroin, kush, Hagrid's popped genital wards, his gonorrhea, his foreskin, and his LSD. The night ended very nicely with only 7 students that fell off the roof and 3 that wandered into Hagrid's hut at night. Poor souls. The next day, Miss McGonagall was very excited to announce the annual COD tournament. They were playing the COD Hogwarts exclusive called Call of Duty Broom Ups for 20. The point of the game was to fly like dank niggers on brooms and kill other niggers and acquire their crack. And with the usually most motivated players of all time, Ron Weasley out of the competition, it was up to whoever wanted the crack most to win. Dobby was usually the commentator, but since Miss McGonagall had capped that little nigger for being a dumb fuck, Neville had taken the entertaining role and had decided to do something quite different. On the day of the tournament, he showed up in the dankest quilt y'all ever saw and playing some next-gen fucking bagpipes. The tournament began, and Harry Potter had already killed a Jew with the tip of his broom. He now had 2 grams of crack. Every player had started with 1 gram of crack, and since there were about 1,000 players, the winner usually got to take a kilo of in real life crack home and could smoke it whenever. Hermione was using a camping tactic and drawing the opponents in. She had set up specially crafted Muslim mines around her area and began rubbing her huge tits all over the riot shield. As boys started wandering her way, dicks in hands and drooling, they could feel the wrath of Zohar as they would blow the fuck up. Then she would collect the crack. Ron and Hagrid were watching this on Twitch, the best magic streaming site. They were jerking each other off. Suddenly, something on the screen caught Hagrid's eye. He saw Neville and what he thought was a transformer crack pipe he was sucking on. Immediately, nakedly, he got up and ran through the wall of his shack. What a dumb fuck, there was a door right next to him. Ron was too high to realize this, so he just kept jerking the air next to him. At the tournament, the free-for-all arena of crackheads was down to 400 players. The leaders were Harry, Hermione, and some other blonde nigger just behind. Suddenly, a fat, naked, bearded man burst through the wall, ramming into Neville, creating a giant explosion of cocaine. When the powder cleared, everyone could see that Hagrid had impaled Neville with his massive coat and was now furiously sucking on what he thought was a transformer crack pipe. When he realized it was just a bagpipe, he attempted suicide because he doesn't know shit about biology, and he shot himself in the scrotum. Seeing that he didn't die, he went on a mass shooting and killed 12 students who had already died in the COD tournament. Miss McGonagall saw this and her hand instinctively went to her wrinkly cunt. She rubbed her scrawny clit, and in a sudden movement, she shoved her arm elbow deep into her twat. Her fingers were stuck in her fallopian tubes. She hopped over to Hagrid, quite clumsily, and said, "Oh yeah, Keen, this is exactly why we fired you. Stop wasting fucking bullets on these niggas." Then Hagrid left. Suddenly, the remaining 340 players all died, clearly due to hacks, except for one person, under the username of XXX_the_real_Snape_XXX. Some guy got up and happily exclaimed, "Yes, I won!" It was Professor Snape himself, hardly able to keep his 50-centimeter blazing blunt in his mouth. "No, you didn't, you chabby coon. You hacked me. Disqualified. I report against the crack because he bleached his asshole. Good job, Harry." Professor Snape cried a little, and then he blazed a good 25 centimeters of his blunt in one hit and left. That night, Harry invited his friend Hermione and snuck Ron Weasley into his room so that they could share the crack, and they smoked it all in one night. That is the end of this story, but it will be continued if this gets a lot of support. Thank you guys for watching.